I wasn't really hyped on Cuphead for that long, because I didn't really follow its progress until this E3 when they finally gave it an official release date. Looking back at its original trailer at E3 2014, we saw the ambitious work of Studio MDHR Entertainment bring to the public eye a unique take on the run and gun genre. Now with its release, I can say that Cuphead is one of the many recent indie titles that are setting the bar on what a video game should be. This is a frustratingly difficult game that makes you want to beat and perfect each level and every boss fight this game throws your way. Cuphead's story is a very dark and interesting one that never really takes itself too seriously. It begins with Cuphead and his brother Mugman wandering into the Devil's Casino that is run by a man named King Dice. Cuphead and Mugman get on a winning streak at the craps table that eventually catches the attention of the casino owner, the Devil. The Devil offers Cuphead all the money in the casino if he can win one more round, but if they lose, he gets to take their souls as his prize. Blinded by the promise of riches, Cuphead accepts the bet, but ends up rolling snake eyes. Cuphead and Mugman plead for their lives by asking the Devil to spare them, so the Devil, being the warm-hearted person that he is, makes another deal with them. If they can defeat all the debtors that owe him money, he will spare them and let them go freely. It's a very unique story that fits perfectly into the world that this game crafts so impeccably. Cuphead piqued my interest with its art style alone, because it was something I'd never really seen a video game do before. With a game as quirky as this, the 1930s style works perfectly because it doesn't have to explain anything that is out of the ordinary. The art style explains it already because anything goes in that art style, and that's what makes it unique. I absolutely loved what they did with the visuals in this game once I sat down and got completely engrossed in its world. Everything is animated perfectly. Even the tiniest of projectiles that are shot at you have so much detail put into them. This is seen best when you're roaming around the overworld. All the objects you interact with have motion to them, while everything else is stagnant and part of the background, just like the old cartoons from back in the day. You can really see that the makers behind Cuphead really loved that era of animation. The animation was the best part of the game for me, but they also put the same amount of detail into how the game plays as well. For a simple run and gun game, there's a lot more to it than just running and gunning, which was a big surprise to me. I thought this was going to be more on the style of Mega Man, where you only had run, jump, and shoot at your disposal. Cuphead is very similar to the shooters of the NES generation, but has some added mechanics that really bring it into the 21st century. What sets it apart from its NES counterparts is the inclusion of a parry attack and a dash ability. The parry attack is in place of a double jump, so when you hit the jump button again, you will parry an object if the obstacle is colored pink. In every level, there are multiple pink objects thrown your way, and when you parry them, you get a boost of height if done correctly. It starts off as a very basic feature in the early levels, but the game starts throwing more obstacles your way that you have to hit in order to progress farther in the stage. Also, the dash ability is extremely effective in avoiding obstacles in this game. If you're about to be hit by a boss, you can just dash out of the way at the last second. Both of these abilities are taught to you in the tutorial, but they are also included in the earliest levels of the game as a test to make sure that you were paying attention. Like the battle where you have to hit the slot machine lever to damage it, and the gaps in the run and gun stages make you adapt to the situation, and you have to remember all the abilities that you have at your disposal. Just like how the old games taught you new abilities without directly telling you, Cuphead draws inspiration from these games and applies the lessons learned from these games, but with their own spin on it. The developer did a perfect job of giving you the tools you need to complete the game, even though this game is extremely difficult. The retro art style of Cuphead isn't the only thing that feels like a blast from the past. The difficulty that was found in retro games like Contra and Mega Man is on full display for this title that takes inspiration from both. Basically, Cuphead is a very difficult game to master, especially the pilot levels in the game. Cuphead's hardest levels are in the form of aerial levels that have you piloting a plane. These basically turn the game into a bullet hell shooter that makes you dodge and weave to stay alive. Luckily, you can turn into a miniature plane that gives you a boost of speed but also reduces how far you can shoot. Even with this ability, you will die again, and again, and again. You die so much in this game that the developers included a way to see how many times you have died, but I won't spoil that for anyone. Discovering the little secrets and passageways that are hidden right in plain sight throughout this game gives the player a feeling of satisfaction when finding these. I'm not usually into extremely difficult games, but Cuphead was an exception. The developers made sure to throw in components to the game that make you want to strive to beat each and every level. Every time you die, a little progress bar shows up, showing you how far you got into the level, and also throwing in a neat little taunt from each boss that makes you want to show them who the real boss is. Instead of the feeling of defeat when you die, that progress bar that shows up and tells you how close you were to beating the level makes you want to go back and give it another try. Even the tiniest of details make you want to keep playing, when in other games you might become frustrated and want to quit. When you do eventually beat the stage, a little scorecard comes on screen to grade you on how well you did. It grades you on how much health you had left, how many objects you parried, and how quickly you beat the level, among other things. Everything in this game is so perfectly thought out that it was well worth the delays to ensure that the game was done correctly. With all that said, I would give Cuphead a 9 out of 10. This is a short little indie game that took me about 10 hours to beat, but those 10 hours were some of the best I've spent on a video game before. The only thing that held it back was because it was too short and I wanted more from the game. The developers wanted over 30 bosses in this game, and they have hinted at DLC later down the road that will give us more bosses. We will wait and see, and I know the wait will be worth it. I'm JoystickDrummer, and I'm all drummed out.